What's up, fellas, and welcome to another episode of PolitiGoob with me, the Goob. Phone lines will be open all night, so all show at least. Feel free to call in because last week, like I said, I don't know what you don't know, so I think conversationally it'll be easier to clear up confusion. What's coming next? Well, I want to take a look first at just like what has the left been doing. Let's discuss what the left has been doing for the last 5+ years. Anytime they want something, they riot and they attack patriots. They've been hating America. They've been organizing, right? They've been building networks. They've been building armies. They've been taking over towns. They've been monopolizing power in local government and unions, etc. They have been willing to hurt you in any way they possibly can, get you fired from jobs, get your children taken by the state, get you debanked, get you deplatformed off social media. They are exercising their aggression. They're practicing their hatred and building their rage. They've been ramping up, their rhetoric. And most importantly is they riot. They get out into the streets and they protest and they riot until they get what they want. And how has that worked out for the left? Well, they've faced essentially no resistance from the population of the right. They've faced essentially no consequences from the government. They get supported by the media and largely by social media. It's worked out extremely well for them. They get what they want or they riot more until they do. And what has the right been doing this whole time? They've been keeping their head down. They've been trying to play by the rules. They've been asking the left to play by the rules. They've been asking the left to come to their senses. They've been trusting the government and Trump to solve their problems. They don't want to get fired. They've got a family to take care of, right? They haven't been organizing. They haven't been building networks. They haven't been preparing. They've been doing absolutely nothing. And how has that worked out for the right? Do you feel like we're winning right now? We've got Trump and Republican control. Do you feel like the things that need to get done are getting done? They're not going after businesses hiring illegals. They're not shutting down bank accounts of illegals. They're not going after the rioters with the full force of the law. Don Lemon, like I said, he was walked into jail, immediately walked out. I hope you like my AI image. I was kind of proud of that one. Thought it was pretty solid. It's not been working out for the right. Doing nothing doesn't work. So I really want people to understand, because I still see so many, like the overwhelming majority of people on the right who still have this idea of, well, the government needs to solve it. We need to just stand back. We just need to, keep doing nothing, do nothing even harder. That illusion needs to be broken. People need to wake up and realize that doing nothing hasn't worked and it's not going to work. You got to do something. So what will the left do next? What's coming in the future? Well, again, their playbook has worked out quite well for them. So you can certainly expect more riots, more protesting, certainly leading up to the 2028 elections. And if you want to know what happens after the 2028 elections, assuming that they win, just listen to them. Listen to what they've been saying. They've been saying that they will destroy ICE, the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, that they will prosecute all ICE agents, that they will round up collaborators, people who support ICE. They'll be door knocking, going door to door. They're going to come after Trump. They're going to come after ICE, and they're going to come after you too. And so what are you going to do to prepare for this? What are you going to do to stop this? Are you just going to do nothing and then wait until it's on your doorstep and then try and figure it out then? I wouldn't recommend that, right? We need to be organizing. You need to be finding your allies. You need to be planning and preparing and taking action now, right? Look at like when Irina Karutsky was murdered, there were no riots, there were no protests, and that's not a good thing. There were a few murals that were put up, and that was a good thing, right? But it wasn't a lot. There was basically no reaction, and that's the case for literally everything. There's not a single thing, January 6th being the one exception, but that was a shit show. The right does absolutely nothing and expects results somehow. So when I say, like last week, I was literally begging people to just do something, do anything. And because I do have these conversations with real people, outside of this show, I was having this conversation with someone and I listed so many things that they could do. I'm like, you can get involved in local politics. You can print out posters and slap them on telephone poles, right? The next time there's a brutal murder of a beautiful white girl by a third world immigrant, raise awareness, put it out there into the world. It's all about visibility, right? You can confront individuals. If you see some faggot wearing an Antifa shirt, like go up and confront them. If you see a troon, go up and confront them. If you have friends, you can, counter protest and confront these protesters. There's literally an infinite range of things that you can do. You can start organizing, talking, and finding your allies, and later in the conversation, I asked him, I was like, have you done any of these things? Because like, clearly you're aware that there is a white genocide going on, that we are headed towards the extinction of the white race forcefully. You're aware that like the third world immigration is a problem. So it's like, what have you done so far? Have you done any of these things? Have you shaken someone's hand? Do you display your patriotism by wearing an American flag or, a Charlie Kirk shirt, which I know with TPUSA, but like I like Kirk and I think supporting Kirk is good, but maybe get an off-brand one or something. And he kind of spazzed out and he got all flustered and he's like, whatever, dude, just go do a mass shooting then. And I'm like, I'm literally listing things that are not at all a mass shooting that you can be doing. But you like to suggest you do anything, you immediately jump to mass shooting. And this seems to be a dichotomy that the right seems to be extremely stuck in. And I don't know how to break this, where it's like they either do literally nothing or it's full on civil war, full on just mass slaughter. Like there's no in between for the right. It's either do literally nothing or mass slaughter. There's an infinite realm of possibilities of in between, right? So when I'm saying, I'm begging people to do something, I'm not suggesting mass shootings. I'm not like Fed posting here. I'm saying literally do anything. Go shake someone's hand. Go have a conversation with someone. Find an ally. Make a friend. Make a plan. Go start organizing. Start planning for, hey, if, which by the way, like, you look at like the Charlie Kirk memorials where you have like 300 people mourning Charlie Kirk and one radical leftist shows up and starts stomping things out and starts swinging at people, and like the whole memorial is broken up and disperses. No one defends themselves. Everyone just backs off, right? That is one person disrupting 300. And then you look at these leftists who are out there protesting and rioting, and like it's fat lesbians with blue hair. It's the weakest, most soy boy beta bitches imaginable who look like they'd like break their wrist trying to open up a pickle jar. These aren't exactly warriors. And again, they've been training their aggression. They've been practicing hostility and practicing all of this. So they are more prepared in certain ways, but like they are physically and emotionally the weakest amongst us. You get a dozen dudes who know how to throw down and are ready to defend themselves. And it's like, you could very effectively disrupt a lot of these things pretty easily, I think. But if that's your plan, like, plan for it properly. Start Already have lawyers, picked out, like, pool your legal funds to help defend each other, like, be ready to launch crowdfunding and social media campaigns and stuff. But, like, these are the things that you need to start doing now and start preparing for now and start having a plan for when these things inevitably happen. Because again, you're going to see a lot more riots from the left. You're going to see a lot more protests from the left. The violence is only going to escalate. It's entirely possible that it escalates to the point where we start seeing more snipers again. We start seeing bombs going off. Like, I'm not guaranteeing that, but it's entirely possible. But you'll definitely see more riots and more protests. It's entirely possible that they go after infrastructure and or the economy, in the run up for the 2028 election. And also, like, what does it mean if Democrats do win in 2028? Anyone who is anti-deportation, you need to understand that, like, they are fighting to destroy America. They are fighting for the extermination of the white race and for white genocide. There, I'm sure, are some leftists who probably hold the position of, like, well, I think we should secure our border, but also all of the people that are already here should get to stay and should be made citizens, and we shouldn't mess with them. And I used a long time ago the analogy of, like, a schizophrenic in a child's cancer ward shooting children because he thinks his bullets are cancer curing bullets. It doesn't really matter what the intentions are when the outcome is destruction and death. Like, those intentions are meaningless. He thinks he's saving the kids, but he's killing them. Someone who thinks it's okay to just allow these people to stay are also fighting for the third worldification and the destruction of America. Because even if there's many leftists who are more radical and who are pushing for open borders and the active destruction of America. And, like, those leftists that I described earlier aren't going to be rioting against them when they open the borders. But also, it's like, even if that was the official policy of no one new can come in, we're going to shut down the border, we're going to secure the border, but also anyone who does make it across the border gets to stay, that is open borders. Right? Like, it's not that hard to get into America. It doesn't matter if we do have a wall or border patrol. Millions more will come in because they're just allowed to stay, and they're going to be given free housing and free food and free everything else. More and more will get taken from you. We already have laws in Virginia. So just understand that, like, there can be no compromise with these people. There can be no middle ground with these people. They are enemies who are fighting to create a world in which you and your children will be dead and raped by third worlders. So you need to regard them as enemies. But what was the point I was just about to make? Yeah, no, Drew, right, because, like, with the left, you have just fully open borders and a very active and aggressive destruction of America. With the right, you go, okay, well, we'll shut down the borders, we'll even deport some people, but we're going to bring in millions of H-1Bs. We're not actually going to do what it takes to prevent people from wanting to come in and to get people out by, like, going after employers or bank accounts or anything like that, or even the welfare in a serious manner. And so, yes, it is the same beast in a way, but with one, your destruction is much more imminent. It's much more aggressive. It's much more rapid. And with the other, it's a little bit slower, right? And so this is why, again, visibility is the most important thing. It's like, there's a lot of power in perception, and the perception is that the masses, are leftist, because that's who you see rioting in the streets. That's who you see making their voices and their opinions heard. And the right refuses to voice their opinions. And so if you ever do want a government that is actually going to address things in a way that would be effective and, start turning things towards a better America rather than a destroyed America. Again, it's all about visibility. It's about making your opinion seen, plastering up posters, handing out pamphlets, confronting leftists in public, protesting and counter protesting. Like these, it is all about visibility. There's a study that was done where, you get 4 people in a room. The first 3 people are in on the experiment. And you show them like a 3-inch line, a 2-inch line, and a 4-inch line. And the first 3 people all say that the 3-inch line is the longest line. Like 78% of people, when they're that 4th person, after those first 3 people answered clearly wrongly, they will also say the 3-inch line was the longest line. Or, make it whatever basic question there is. Hold up 3 red dots, and the first 3 people all say there's 4 red dots. 78% of the people will say there's 4 red dots, knowing they're wrong, right? Because it's the power of perception, or fitting in is very strong drive, and there's a lot of effort to make it seem like everyone's opinion, and the obvious opinion is the leftist opinion. And because they're totally unopposed, because the right is not trying to be visible, because the right is afraid to wear, patriotic gear and voice their opinions and do any of these things because they know the left will attack them. Power dynamics is also a very important thing. These things only get worse, and it just, again, it's a snowball that grows upon itself. So you need to be more visible and make these opinions dominate the public space by voicing them. If you ever want a government that is actually going to potentially address these things. And I'm not confident we'll ever get that, right? So it really comes down to you to enforcing your will upon the world, and making that visible. And then, power dynamics as well. I was asked last week in the stream with Gulag, like, what do we do about women? How do we address the problem with white women specifically? And the only answer is by taking back control of the power dynamics, like I was describing in my earliest political streams. Women, they don't work on logic. They don't work on evidence and facts and reasoning, right? They work on emotion and power dynamics. They understand that when they're on their way home from work, the people who are willing to scream in their face and punch them and physically attack them and get them fired from their job and inflict all of this harm upon them, inflict all of this power upon them, is the left. The right is not willing to do that, right? Like even when we had like nurses celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk and school teachers and things like that, like positions where those types of things are not okay. Like if you're a landscaper and you're celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, maybe you can continue being a landscaper. But if you're actively wishing for the death of Republicans, and you're like taking care of children, that's a bit of a problem, right? And there were a lot of people on the right who were against trying to get those people fired. The right must take back control of the power dynamics. They must start exercising their power dynamics. And this also ties into like this black and white dichotomy of do something or doing literally nothing and like mass murder, right? Because again, there's this wide range of action that can be taken in the in-between. And it's a pure delusion to think that the right, who is not even comfortable being slightly mean to their enemies, is going to just wake up in unison and start slaughtering their enemies. That's not going to happen. You have to practice your aggression, right? Like you have to be comfortable being mean to the people who want you dead. You have to be comfortable inflicting harm upon them, whether that be getting them fired for their job because they have no place in medicine, wishing the death of, innocent people for their political views, or whether it be confronting them in public, whether it be being willing to defend yourself when they get violent towards you in public because you're wearing an American flag, or because you did confront them, or because they heard you say something vaguely Republican or whatever, right? You have to be willing to actually inflict some harm upon your enemies. And that requires some practice for most people. Like most people are not able to just go from self-censoring their entire lives and like being passive to kill everyone. That's not how the vast majority of people work. So like start practicing your aggression. um does anyone want to call in? Does anyone, am I making sense? Am I making myself clear? I don't know. Yeah, like there's again just a million things that you can be doing. Maybe you're a Vincent type, right? Shout out Vince for that painting. Maybe you're an artist. Like I think I said this earlier, maybe not. Uh, like make posters, share the posters, share a digital poster with your friends, these allies that you should be making, right? What have you done? Because the answer is not do nothing or mass murder. What have you done? What steps have you taken? And if the answer is you've taken those steps, why? What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Figure out what your skills are, figure out what you're comfortable doing, get involved in local government, get involved in, you know, anything. Start doing something. But yeah, if you are an artist, make posters, make propaganda, share them with your friends so that they can print them out and plaster them up too. You get a bucket of that paint. I think it's like gluten or something, but it's like wheat paint or something, but wheat glue or something. And you can, plaster posters around town. You can hand out pamphlets trying to wake people up to the white genocide, wake people up to whatever you think, is going to be effective. But what have you done so far? What do you plan to do? Figure out your avenue, because not everyone is going to be, counter protesting and getting in fist fights. Like I get that's not for everyone. I think we need a lot of people to do that. But what are you going to do? The answer should not and cannot be nothing. And it cannot be, well, I'll just wait and figure it out once it happens, right? Like you see that in Virginia, for example, they're trying to pass all these laws to make it blatantly obvious that like they're trying to cheat in the 2028 election. There's no other purpose for the laws they're trying to pass other than to blatantly cheat again in the presidential election. So what are you going to do to prevent this? Like you can register as a poll watcher, which sure they got kicked out in 2020. They wouldn't let the poll watchers observe, but it's like you just because they're going to cheat and make it difficult for you to try and stop them, that doesn't just mean throw up your hands and do nothing. Like you can at least make it more difficult for them, if not actually stop them. And when they cheat anyways, like how are you going to respond? January 6th didn't work out too well when they installed that coup. Do you remember the barbed wire in the army being stationed for months in DC after Biden and ran his coup against Trump? What are you going to do? Because these things are going to happen. How are you going to respond to them? Don't wait to figure it out. Know that more riots are coming. Know that more cheating in elections is coming. Know that if they do win the election, amnesty for all of the illegals, more welfare for all of the illegals, more laws making it illegal to hire white people like we're seeing in Virginia, more pushing you out of the workforce. Like even if you get to keep your head down and keep your job so that you can support your family, your kids are never going to get hired anywhere. They're never going to have a decent job. They're going to be getting raped by the third worlders that are going to continue coming in by the millions because you give amnesty to illegals. Like even if you shut down the border, it's not that hard to get in. There's going to be millions more. You're going to see more and more towns taken over by Muslims and third worlders, more elected mayors that are Muslim telling white Americans to get the fuck out because they don't like the mosque, more third world, literal illegal immigrant cops enforcing laws, more lawfare. And it's like, I understand, the hesitation of taking action because there are all of these unfairnesses the laws aren't stacked against you, but the courts are stacked against you. There is lawfare and double standards and all of these things. But the leftists only get more and more emboldened when the right doesn't react and respond. And it's the snowball effect, right? It just gets more and more out of control. And especially with the courts, like, precedent matters with the courts. So, like, the more you allow this to happen and get established, the more difficult it will be to ever wrestle that back and get things back to the way they're supposed to be. It's just the very simple idea that fighting back yesterday would be easier than today. Fighting back today will be easier than tomorrow. And if you choose not to fight back, there is only one outcome, which is total destruction. It's mass suffering. It is the third worldification, the Britification, right? We in many ways, we already are like the UK, but we will only rapidly decline towards it even faster. The whole beginning, right? The right doing nothing isn't working. We understand that, right? That doing nothing is not working. So we need to start doing something. Yeah, you don't need to riot. You can protest. You can counter protest. And when the lefties get violent with you, you can be more violent to them back, right? If they swing at you with their weak, faggy little arms, you can swing back harder. Again, there's like, I'm not telling people to go out and riot. When I mentioned Zarina Karutsky, there were no riots, there were no protests, there was almost nothing. There were a few murals. You could have made posters and slapped more posters of Zarina around your town. You could have handed out pamphlets. You could have protested peacefully. You could have, actually gone to the judge and protest them for their decision to release that criminal. Like, there's a lot of things that could be done that aren't rioting, that aren't mass murder, but the right doesn't do any of them. The right just does nothing and trusts the government, which also does nothing to solve their problems. That hasn't worked, and it's not going to work. I don't know, fellas. I said last week that, like, I don't know what you guys don't know. I realized that I was pretty far ahead of the curve. Like, I look at the obvious conclusion of things, right? Like how I broke down earlier, how someone might be for closed borders, but amnesty for illegals. And that is effectively just an open border, third worldification position for America, right? Like, you have to look at the logical conclusion of things. And so that's why in middle school, I understood that, like, this woke censorship of words and stuff would lead to the destruction of America. Like, I follow things to their logical conclusion, and like that's the only logical conclusion of policing people's language, is that freedom erodes and tyrannical control dominates. And that it just gets more and more radical and progresses crazier and crazier. And so I'm a very well-informed person, but I'm not necessarily the best at sharing my knowledge with others. Like, my communication style, especially for a topic like this, I think probably isn't the best, because, like, I'm begging people to do anything. And they go, okay, just commit a mass shooting then. I go, what have you done? And they're like, well, just go do a mass shooting then, Fed. So I speak very directly. I speak very bluntly. I speak very literally. And I think that might not be the best communication style for this, because it doesn't seem to reach a lot of people, unfortunately. And so, like, I understand what's coming. I understand how bad things already are. And maybe other people don't get that. Like, should I be highlighting what's happening more? Should I be showing examples of these leftists, openly calling for the death and destruction of America and white people? Should I, like, do these points need hammered home more? Is everyone on board already with the fact that white genocide is happening, or like are some of you hesitant about that? Do I need to emphasize that? I don't know what you guys know. Which is, part of the reason why I have the phone lines open tonight, so that if there is confusion about something I'm saying, or if you think that I'm being hyperbolic or something, maybe I can clear this up for you guys. Because I said in my very first episode, and I will repeat it many times, and I'll mean it sincerely every time, is that the majority of leftists, blacks, Jews, and Muslims want you dead and are actively working to build a world in which you will be dead. That's not like a pleasant thing to accept. But it's the reality. And so if you understand that reality, like, how can you possibly just go on living your life, just going to work each day, keeping your head down? Like, how do you reconcile things? Like, how do you acknowledge that we are on a path of destruction, that there are a lot of people who actively want to, manifest that path, and people who want you dead? People who would be fine with your children getting raped and dancing on their graves afterwards and blaming them for it. Like, how do you reconcile understanding those things, understanding that the right doing nothing hasn't worked, and then continue doing nothing? So it's like, I don't know if it's a breakdown of people still not getting this stuff. I don't know. I don't know what you guys don't know. I'm just sitting here talking to a screen. So feel free to call in. Let me know, what your thoughts are on that. Yeah, no, I get that, and I understand you. You can post up some posters. You can hang some posters. I used to walk around with sidewalk chalk, and I would just write shit on the streets. And this was like when I was living in Washington, Seattle. So that's a pretty dangerous place to be a Republican, like, and to be voicing your opinions and all of this stuff. It's like there's so much you can do, though. That's more than nothing. And maybe you're like, oh, that's silly, that's not enough, that's not actually going to change things. Again, let me pull up something real quick to try and make a point here. Give me a moment, fellas. Give me just a moment. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so let's watch this, and then let's discuss it real quick. So just, I think that's in a high school or something. But like the point there, right, is all of these things I've discussed, the power dynamics and everything else, the snowball effect, all of these things, right? Like, you have a kid wearing a Charlie Kirk hoodie, and this leftist crazy bitch with purple hair is coming up and yelling in his face. And she was being like sort of silly there, right? But like, she has absolutely no problem voicing her opinion and making her sentiments seen and heard, and nor does anyone on the left. Meanwhile, the right cowers and hides and self-censors. And so all of these things build upon each other. You have to start somewhere. And I think one of the main problems with the right is that, no one's willing to do anything. And so no one else is willing to do anything, because everyone feels like, well, no one's going to do anything. No one's going to have my back. I don't have allies. I'll go out there and voice my opinion, and then I'll get mobbed by the left, and I'll be left all alone and hung out to dry. And unfortunately, like, there is truth in that, which is why, again, I say, find your allies, have these conversations. Why I say, take these little steps, if you see someone else being brave, go shake their hand, go thank them, get their phone number, start hanging out with them, start being brave with them, right? Like, there is everything I'm talking about, right? I keep saying the same shit over again because I'm just trying to drill this home. Is that like courage is contagious, and so is fear. The right has an epidemic of fear right now. No one's willing to even take that first step. Like I was talking to that kid earlier, and about that kid earlier, where I'm like, "What have you done yet?" And he goes, "Just do a mass shooting then." You have to break through that barrier, and you have to start doing something. You have to start making your sentiments seen and heard. Let other people know that it's okay to do these things. They'll start letting their sentiments be seen and heard. I was talking about that study, right? Everyone knows the leftists are perfectly comfortable acting like this, and everyone knows that the right is not. So 78% of people are going to side with those leftists, just like they're going to say that 3-inch line is the longest, because they have the perception of the masses. They have the power dynamics. It's going to be even more than 78% because there's power dynamics at play here. They know that if they don't stand on that side, they might get yelled in their face too. The right's not willing to confront the left like that. They need to be. They need to be. I don't know where the disconnect is in other people's heads. Like these are all, to me, this is very 1+1 = 2, like very direct logic and consequence and reaction. Like the right can't keep doing nothing. That's not working. The left needs to be confronted. The left needs to be stopped. You need to plan. You need to organize. You need to find your allies. You don't need to go out and commit mass murder. You don't need to go out and riot, right? But finish addressing your point of the right has jobs, so you can't protest. You can hang flyers. You can do so many other things. Stop. Get the fuck out of this dichotomy of, well, I can't just overthrow the government, so I guess I can do nothing, or I can't just mass slaughter, or I guess I can't protest all day, every day. You can go to a protest on the weekend. You can, like, stop this defeatist fucking attitude. What the fuck is wrong with you people? And this is so prevalent amongst the right. It's everybody. This is what I encounter overwhelmingly so. Stop being this defeatist fucking loser. You can do something. Do you think you'll feel better about yourself if you do put up some posters, if you do hand out some flyers, if you do confront, you see some, leftist in an Antifa hoodie and you mock them to their face? Or do you think when your children can't get hired, when your town is overrun by third world immigrants and they can't even leave the house without getting raped, and people laugh at you and celebrate when they do get raped and they dance and piss on their graves, will you wish that maybe you had confronted some leftists? Will you wish that maybe you had passed out some flyers or done literally fucking anything? Or are you going to still go, well, I'm glad I kept my job. I'm glad I didn't get fired so I could support my family. I'm glad I did literally nothing. Wake the fuck up. That's it. I'm out. Like, do something. Fucking do something.